Hi, this is Glenda, and today I'm making, I guess, a fall theme soap. It could be also Christmas. I guess it's both. I'm not sure. It's inspired by the fragrance, and the fragrance is Hansel and Gretel's House, and it's by Lone Star Candle Supply. And right now I'm just transferring the oils to a bigger container. I made them, this is part of the batch, the master batch of oils that I did. So I melted them and now I'm using it up. It's nice to have your oils already mixed and ready to soap instead of having to measure every time you want to make soap. And this soap is going to be fairly easy and simple. It's going to be with confetti soap technique, in which I'm going to use leftover pieces of soaps, either from when you have to cut other soaps because of cosmetic reasons, just to trim the edges or bevel the edges, or you just had too much soap and it's left over, that kind of thing. Now my light water is looking very weird, as you can tell. I'm gonna take the temperature of both. The oils are at 102. The light water, it's at 81, and I added 0.33 ounces of pumpkin puree that was frozen, and I added about 4 ounces of what do you call it? It was frozen and it was milk, but it wasn't your regular milk. It wasn't goat's milk. It was just milk from a can, so it's evaporated milk. And I didn't use all of it for the milk portion or for the water portion. I only used 4 ounces, and it did seem to warm up rather fast, so I had to go and get ice from the freezer to create like a water bath and keep it from scorching. But I noticed that it created this dark brown portions, and they have a soft texture. It reminds me of caramel, and you can probably see them here on the strainer. But this is what I'm straining it, because I'm not sure if those will dissolve once in the soap. I'm not sure if it's I've worked with pumpkin before, and I don't remember seeing it, but I haven't worked with evaporated milk before. I do know, or I think at least, I have the idea that evaporated milk has a higher concentration of sugars than standard milk. So it could be that those sugars caramelize, and that's actually a weird, non-edible for sure, form of caramel. I don't know. But I've strained them, and there you have it. The fragrance that I'm using is the first time that I'm using it, so I'm going to be extra careful with it. So I'm just gonna blend it slightly, just to make sure that it doesn't accelerate. Like I said, fragrances that are on the sweeter side tend to accelerate, so I'll be careful. I have brought the mix to a brief emulsion, to an emulsion. I don't see any more oils in it, and that is when I'm going to add the fragrance. I am not going to color this soap because the fragrance has 4% of vanilla in it, so that should give me a medium brown, and I don't want it to get any darker than that, but 4% is enough that if I want to do any other color, it will not it will not look good. Unless I will have to stay within that palette. But it's gonna be a medium brown. Okay. So, here we go. Okay, I'm not noticing any acceleration. So, these are the confetti soap scraps that I'll be using. First, I'm just going to put a layer of this onto the mold, and I'm just gonna sprinkle this in it. And as you can see, they're not sinking into the mold, which is good, I suppose. It means that the soap has enough texture and that they're lightweight enough that they're not sinking. You wouldn't want them to sink all to the bottom, but I don't want them all to float on top either. So I'm going to mix them up like that. It smells really good. I like the fragrance of it. But it does seem that the majority of the scraps, the soap scraps, are just floating on top. So I'm trying to mix them up. Since the batter is very fluid and I know I'm going to have leftovers, I went ahead and fill out a couple of the detail molds with it, because it works better for this kind of molds when your batter is very liquidy, very fluid. Okay, I blended it some more so it will have some thickness, and that seems to be helping in making the soap scraps stay down. So maybe I will mix it up so that some of the thicker consistency will go to the bottom and it will suspend the scraps. From what I can feel with the spatula, I can tell that there are several that are at the bottom, and I can see the ones on top, so we're good. Alright, so I was able to fill some extra molds that I had, and it should be now solid enough, hopefully, that I can add the embeds. I'm gonna test with one of the houses to see if it stays. Yep. Yep. It's not sinking. So I actually read, well, I didn't read, I had it read to me, the story of Hansel and Gretel. And when I said I had it read to me, is that I downloaded an audiobook from the library's website, and there are a few versions of the story, I think. What I found funny or interesting is that it's not clear whether gingerbread houses were created, inspired on the story, or if gingerbread houses were already a tradition that the story simply illustrated more. Now, one of my gingerbreads had sadly been decapitated. I'm not sure who did it because they've all been in this little container. So, and another one of the gingerbreads had lost one of his eyes and part of his leg decoration. So I will either paint it with mica and alcohol, or I will keep that soap for myself, or just give it to my sister. Now this one gingerbread man seems to be whole, so that makes him suspect number 1 on the crime case. But I'm going to try to just attach the let me see, I think I need to get rid of my glove for this one. Just be careful to put the head. Then me just push it in. Oh, yeah, that might be all I can do. Okay, so I have some subtle balls of different colors to illustrate just candy or gumballs, or maybe, I don't know, chewing gum balls, even though at that time they wouldn't have had them, so let's call them candy. So I found the story, a background to it, and it said that it could have been that there was a time where there was a lot of poverty and hunger, and anyway, that theory didn't discard the notion that at that time parents may have felt that way because they didn't have anything to feed their kids, to just abandon them, which is quite sad. And I'm quite glad that, as far as we know, this is a fictitious story. It would be sad. It's sad to know that it was a possibility, but if we study history, we know that it's not truly too far-fetched for our imaginations, because we have had times of hunger in the world, and we still do in some continents and countries. Alright, so I think that should be it. I do have more of these little balls, so what I'm going to do, and I think I'm adding too many as it is, I'm going to push them in so that they don't come off when I cut it, and that they sink at least partially into the soap and get stuck, adhere to it. But yeah, that should be it. I'll show you what they look like when I cut them.